Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you were in the opening session, and welcome if you have just joined us for our webinar on Finnish agricultural technology and its opportunities in South Africa. My name, if you've just joined, is Camilo Ramada. I'm a senior advisor of Business Finland in Southern Africa, and we're organizing this event together with the Embassy of Finland and with Agri SA, the South African Agricultural Federation, and Agri Enterprise, of which Craig Murrell is going to do the first presentation. This session, and please remember, just a reminder that all the time slots are in Finnish time. So if you're in South Africa, you must minus 1 hour. So as you can see on your screen, it says that now we're at 11:30. Well, in South Africa, we're at 10:30. Your mics and cameras are switched off by the host unless you are a presenter. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, as we've been doing in the first session, and then you will be we will address those questions in the little Q&A blocks. In this session A, which is about water, soil, which includes fertilizer and energy, or in other words, the environmental enablers of agriculture, we will ask Craig Murrell, the strategy lead at Agri Enterprise, to give us an overview of the South African reality in those sectors, in those aspects, and then we have 3 amazing Finnish presentations, which is Topi Helle, the CEO of the Finnish Water Forum, about Finnish Excellence in water treatment, Chris Ndhlovu, the CEO in Zambia for the Finnish company BioRaiser. BioRaiser makes an amazing kind of fertilizer, which is very good for water scarce environments. And then we have Aira Harju, the development manager of primary production at HKScan, which is a big pork producer who have developed an amazing system to promote animal welfare, sustainability, and obviously through that the interests of the consumer as well, and of the animals. As you can see, there's no energy in that mix. The Finland is, for example, very strong in bioenergy, biogas, but the companies that we had invited to speak on those topics couldn't make it, unfortunately, today. So if you are interested in Finnish solutions for bioenergy or for energy, particularly for the agricultural sector or for any sector, at this point, Finland is also very strong in, for example, waste to energy, microgrid management, intelligent grid management, and also in gas and other forms of energy. But we are at this point doing Business Finland, South Africa is doing a market research on waste to energy and bioenergy opportunities in South Africa, and I expect that we will present that research early next year and potentially also organize a webinar around that. So if that is something that you are interested in Finnish solutions for energy, please contact us directly, and we'll gladly also put you in touch with the companies that we know. I think that's all I had to say at this point. I invite Craig to do his presentation again on the needs, opportunities, and entry strategies, in this case, particular with the focus on the topic of this session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Camilo. So I'm just going to share my presentation now. Just 1 second, computer's firing up. Okay, can I be seen and heard? Just want to confirm. Sure, guys. Can you hear and see? Okay, great. So notable events in natural resources is the next section that I want to take us through. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Craig Murrell from a company called Agri Enterprise. We are the commercial vehicle for Agri SA. They're our shareholder. They're the largest federation of organized agriculture in the country. And we've done an introduction and an overview of South African agriculture for those not too familiar with the sector. And what we want to touch on is notable events in natural resources, specifically water, soil, and energy. As we see it, obviously we can't touch on everything. We're just going to touch on what we see as being really important and of interest specifically for Finnish companies that want to do business in the country and opportunities to leverage South African potential. So I want to start with water. We have irrigation schemes and infrastructure funding as a category I have been spending a lot of time with and developing this opportunity quite a lot. How it looks is we've got 256 irrigation schemes in the country. South Africa, we just call like a dam an irrigation scheme. So if there's any water, if you turn your taps on or if you see water running through a river, it is connected with an irrigation scheme. So if you're a municipality, if you are a mine, if you're a manufacturer, you get your water from an irrigation scheme. And so it consists of three parts: the bulk water asset, which is the dam and the weir, then the primary infrastructure, the pumps, sluice, the primary canals, the secondary infrastructure, which is the water to end users. How they work in the country is the opportunity. So water users associations, WUAs, they run the assets as custodians. The assets belong to the Department of Water and Sanitation. So then the custodians, WUAs, run the primary infrastructure. And the opportunity is that there's generally a funding and a skills gap. Because they are custodians, they don't have the ability to leverage the asset on their balance sheet to attract either debt or equity funding, as the asset belongs to the state. And there's a funding and skills gap that is there. And this has got a huge public-private partnership potential to get funding into our water infrastructure in the country. So development finance institutions, there's direct foreign investment potential from multilateral development banks. This is probably the biggest one. So if there's, for example, FinFund sitting here, want to get involved, absolutely. So typical funders of irrigation schemes, how it has worked: New Development Bank of Southern Africa, and African Development Bank. The typical funders of these are really big things. These are like 100 million euro plus each. So the transaction and the ticket sizes are really large. And water, as a water scarce country, this is probably the number one thing that needs to be addressed in terms of the long term. Is our water supply sustainable over the long term? This is just expanding on the opportunity of water in South Africa. I'm referring to the WWF's water risk filter. This was in 2020. I'll turn my pointer on. I just want to point out the Western Cape is projected by 2050 to be one of the highest water risk areas in the country by 2050. And this is actually on a scale of, this is the highest part of the scale, being this part of the Western Cape. If the trajectory continues as is, will have the largest water problems in the country, but that's on the highest risk level. So it will be as water scarce as the rest of the world. So currently it's a little bit, there's water shortages, there's water scarcity, but it will get worse if the current trajectory stays the same. So what it looks like for the farmers is partner with the farmers to implement sustainable water use practices, partner with other industries to provide water monitoring and water reduction technologies. Where there are well vertically integrated farmers and farming enterprises, water use is generally optimized, and dryland crops still make up a large percentage by volume of the crops in the world, but we do still need partnerships with water custodians to help them fund water stewardship solutions. Water monitoring, a lot of the water in the country on vertical integrated farms makes use of either grey or black or grey water systems and biosewage systems. For example, how, just to simplify it, the effluent would end up flowing through cone-shaped clarification tanks, and then sterilization through ozone and UV are two of the most common sterilization methods. And water monitoring with technology, these are some of the notable companies that we've taken note of, and this is one of the systems that we wanted to just explain. And I mean, running through the system, there's a secondary biological treatment site, which then works through tertiary polishing, restitution, to reuse, and then reused water. These are some of the companies that are rolling out water use systems and water monitoring systems in the country. We are not new to it, but also the technology can be further integrated with either investment or bringing new technology to the country. I mentioned in my overview, South African farmers are pretty innovative. They also are willing to try new things, but they will also get off things that do not work very quickly. So relatively willing to adopt new technologies, but if the new technology in 1 to 2 seasons does not yield sort of results that indicate that it will be sustainable, it will be dropped in general. Touching on soil, so generalizing, South Africa farmers typically use commercially available liquid and dry fertilizers and liquid chemicals. The niche crops are the opportunity as well-integrated farmers and that have offtakes with high-end retailers and multinationals on exclusive supplier agreements. They're starting to venture into organic fertilizers because that's where the sustainability is heading. Organic fertilizers in South Africa are currently very expensive due to the organic verification process, which is in euros, and then the production of those organic fertilizers. Globally, if you are in the fertilizer industry or in the crop production industry, you'll know there's 3 things that are happening right now. Fertilizer prices have shot up because there's a phosphate and urea shortage globally. If you'll have a look at my cursor, this black trend shows that fertilizers have doubled in terms of costs since 2020. Sorry, in 2021, and they doubled again in 2020. So if somebody was buying a ton of brand X fertilizer for about 4,500 Rand a ton, it's actually closer to 10,000 Rand a ton now, so a little bit over double. Glyphosate, there's a glyphosate shortage globally. And this is still the active ingredient in probably the best known herbicide in the country, which is Roundup, still largely used in a lot of our agronomic crops, specifically for subsistence and smallholder farmers. Their weed management practices over large areas, the areas are too broad to do manual weeding and manual tilling. So then they just apply a liquid herbicide. And with this shortage now, their yields could potentially decrease, as well as commercial farmers as well. Talking about soils, South African companies are really well integrated with tech from satellites and looking at geographic imaging systems, just called GIS. We use these very frequently in agriculture. We have 126 million hectares of land in the country, about 76 million are arable. So 76 million hectares are arable. It's a pretty large country, so we can't just start farming on any tract of land. So fortunately, the 4IR is really prevalent in mapping agricultural land and soil potential. So these are some example reports that one leading company in the country typically produces. And it's very easy to explain the agricultural potential in a piece of land before you even travel there. So before there's any direct expenses, you can very easily quantify, and for example, with this graph, you can quantify by saying, okay, the majority of the land is land capability land use type 8, which 46%, and that is suitable for crops A, B, and C. This is just another example. We tend to know a lot about our soils in South Africa. What is starting to develop is the topsoil farming organically with topsoil preservation as a means of now creating carbon credits, and as a means of farming more sustainably is starting to turn in to be on the upturn. So all of this information historically needs to be available for that. So to be eligible for carbon credits, you need to have historic soil data from labs, and you need to be able to measure this percentage soil organic carbon in your soil and backtrack it. You need to prove that what you are doing is novel. So you are not doing a practice that is the same as 20% of the industry. So you're doing something quite new, and there's been a material increase in the percentage soil organic carbon over the years. Then you can be eligible for carbon credits, and they can range from a couple thousand Rand to tens of thousands of Rands per hectare per year, depending on percentage soil organic carbon. Renewable energies are just, there's a company called Green Cape. I see they might have been the attendees. They've got fantastic market intelligence reports. and I just want to highlight some of the facts from this. And renewable energy in South Africa has previously not had much energy, but with the current leadership with the DMRE, which is our Department of Minerals, Energy and Resources, renewable energies are really at the forefront of conversation and action in South Africa. Target is 17,800 megawatts of renewable energy by 2030 under the current integrated resources plan. Currently, I think this is a 2020 number, we have 6,300. So we need to almost triple our renewable energy procurement from large and small projects in the independent power producers procurement program. What's a small project? It's a project that produces between 1 and 5 megawatts of energy. What's a large project? It produces between 1 and 140 megawatts of wind and 1 and 75 megawatts of solar photovoltaic. Small scale projects consider things like wind, solar, biomass, biogas, landfill gas. This is not to say this is all that there is, but this is what's currently recognized and what is currently accounted for. Independent power producer or IPP programs, there's 3 in the country. There's the renewable energy IPP, there's the risk mitigation IPP, and there's the cogeneration IPP. Renewable energies, as I said, there's a target of just under 18,000 megawatts of renewable energy by 2030. There's a risk mitigation one that is seeking to procure an additional 2,000 megawatts of new generation capacity from a range of energy source technologies, and a cogeneration, which will procure energy from 3 technologies, being waste to energy, combined heat and power, and industrial biomass. Is it viable in the long term? Simply yes. Cost of averaged across all these technologies in the REI PPP program has come down to now 70 cents per kilowatt hour. Compared with coal, depending where in the country you're sourced, coal costs between 40 cents and 1 rand. And this was in bid window 4. So there were 5 bid windows, the 5th one closed in October. So through 4 iterations, the price has halved by, I think it's 70%. So the price is reduced by 70% from 2 rand down to 70 cents. It's a weighted average. So as I mentioned, the 5th bid window is closed. The results are due in October. So simply renewable energy, why is it working in South Africa? Incentives are set up and established by the government. There's incentives for companies to invest in the energy and to produce independent power. Bioenergy opportunities in South Africa. I just want to highlight, unlike renewable energy, bioenergy is not as developed in the country. The status is that there's regulatory uncertainty. It's been largely left to the free market. Challenges are that it's really hard to afford it, and there are no incentives set up yet. For those of you new to bioenergy, it's an umbrella term covering biofuels and biogas. It's basically energy that are derived from biologicals. In the biofuel space, we are looking at a draft regulation that proposes increasing the amount percentage of biofuel in petroleum, increase from 2% to 4.5%. You might not know, every litre of petrol's got 2% biofuel in it already right now. But now the draft regulations are increasing that to 4.5%. And biogas, what we're looking at is it's novel in South Africa. There's standalone examples of pioneered and retrofitted biodigesters producing a couple hundred kilowatt hours per day. That is enough to run the farm, and sometimes it's enough to supply to the grid, but now that needs some regulatory unlocking as well. So if you're in agriculture and you're looking at bioenergy, specific areas of focus, dairy, poultry, and pork, because of the waste created from these animals. The example is that the slurry from dairies was previously just added to the crops as a nutrient fertilizer, and sometimes it needs some balancing. Right now, instead, put it through a biodigester, and the substrates that are left over can be pelletized and form the base of organic fertilizers. So you can even resell that or potentially just add it back to your crop. There was an example of power from poo in Diepsloot. This was a proposed project. I don't have an update on how it's going, but this was a proposed project to turn human waste into biogas. And if you have it here, you can see it quickly. It's a 7-step process, but biogas is viable, and there is a demand for biogas in the country. But there is a need for specific foreign technology to introduce new novel ideas to it. in the country. Quick flyover biofuel regulatory analysis. We're basically at the point in 2020 where the new biofuels framework was published. There's blending regulations that were made mandatory. That's the 2% I mentioned, and that's where we're at now. Organic waste regulations, just want to touch on, there's three methods: mechanical, which is then briquetting, centrifuging, chipping, pelleting. Chemical is hydrolysis, oxidation, transesterification, and saponification. Please don't ask me what saponification is. And then anaerobic digestion for anaerobic organic waste treatment. These are some companies that are pioneering. These are some companies that already have solutions right now in the country. And this is just a quick scan of what is happening. So strategic liquid waste management and soil pollution control is the value proposition. Then lastly, I could leave it to my last slide for this section, is sustainability. We just want the message to be, don't overthink the tech, start measuring the impact. Food and bev companies across the world demand it. There was a question about multinational companies. Here's 6 of them. 6 of the targets and their aims, they are basically saying sustainability is really important to them as companies. So they are going to impose and are currently imposing those sustainability requirements and targets all the way down their value chain so that they can deliver a more sustainable product to the end consumer, you and I. So when we look at, I say, start measuring it, there's a measurement gap in terms of emissions. And those, so the US and with the new Green Deal and EU, the EU Green Deal, those are incredibly well measured in terms of emissions, but the measurement lines and measurement states for countries in Africa are still negligible. And we will be required as countries and producers in these countries to report on our emissions, and way past just carbon emissions. Are you able to track and trace your product from even inputs, not even farm to fork, inputs to now packaged, finished product in a store 14,000 kilometers away? These are just some of the ambitious targets that have been set by the multinationals. And yeah, that brings me to an end of the topic A on natural resources.
Well, Craig, thank you so much. That was really interesting, as I've been promising all the participants. Really, thank you very much for that. I see we have again a large group of participants on the call. We have more than 90 registrations. I guess some people will participate in some sessions, but not in all the sessions. I want to mention something that maybe this is an appropriate moment. I should have mentioned it before. The Business Finland has a project called Development Markets Platform, which we call DevPlats, because that sounds cooler. That is a program that looks especially to co-innovation, co-creation partnerships between Finnish and local, in this case, South African stakeholders. So if we invest money into those partnerships. So if you are preparing an innovation, if you are a South African stakeholder who has identified a particular need where you want to innovate, but maybe you're looking still for some technology that can be supplied by a Finnish stakeholder, or if you're a Finnish stakeholder and now through these presentations you see some particular area where you think you may add value with your innovations, as Business Finland and Team Finland, we will gladly facilitate those relations, those partnership relations. We will help you find the right stakeholder, whether you're a South African looking for a stakeholder in Finland, or whether you're a Finn looking for a partner in South Africa, or whether you already have the partnership and you need to process this through our development markets platform. We will very gladly assist you. And it is part of the move also from the Ministry of International Relations, the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Relations, the fact that with countries as South Africa, we're obviously moving away from any kind of aid to more trade relations, but this is still international cooperation money that is being applied to these kind of innovation collaborations. So we are very excited about it. It's a new program, and we've high hopes for it, and we're actively and proactively establishing the project pipeline. So feel very free to contact me or anyone of the team if you want to explore that further. That said, then let's start. Let's go to our speakers. Are there other questions in the Q&A? I didn't check. If there are, oh, and thank you, Jenny, for putting the link to the development platform on the chat. If there are no questions at this point to Craig, I would like to invite Topi Helle, the CEO of the Finnish Water Forum, to do your presentation on Finnish Excellence in water treatment. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Thank you. I can share the slides just a moment. So, good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Topi Helle, and I am the Managing Director for Finnish Water Forum. Our mission is to create sustainable solutions for global water and climate challenges with Finnish know-how and technology, jointly with local and international actors. We are a non-profit organization, and we are a platform for Finnish water sector players, and we have over 130 members, including ministries, universities, research institutes, associations, and over 90 private sector companies. And we cover the whole area of water. And the idea is that we are kind of one-stop shop for Finnish partners and Finnish expertise in water. There are 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, and many of them are related to water, and Sustainable Development Goal number 6 is only about water. It's clean water and sanitation. And there are many sustainable ways to reach this goal. Digitalization is an important tool for sustainable water management, good water quality, and water safety. Another good tool is circular economy solutions, such as wastewater recycling or sludge into biogas and fertilizers. What is also important is capacity building. We need competent and skilled staff at private and public sector to use sustainable solutions. Finland has a good water quality, and we have been ranked number 1 in water quality among 122 countries, according to United Nations. There are many different actions needed for good water quality. It's not only about technology. We need research to understand what kind of technology we use where, and then we need also regulation, legislation, and authorities to look after that the best available technology is used by municipalities and industry. In addition, education is needed. We need good engineers to run wastewater treatment plants and to understand technology, as well as we need good and well-educated authorities. So in Finland, we have this kind of a holistic approach to water quality. It's not just single solution. We have to look it all around. We have put together this kind of strongholds where we have a good expertise in Finland. Here we have 9 different strongholds. They all include private sector companies, but also research institutes and universities. And the reason is that very often the challenges within water sector, they are so big that we need cooperation together with different players. And I will now go more in detail with few of these strongholds where we think that we could offer something also in South Africa. One is wastewater into energy, fertilizers, and water reuse. So we have been quite active in Finland in the circular economy, and for example, the Helsinki water utility plant in Viikki, I think it's 96% energy self-sufficient because they are using biogas as an energy, and they also have other actions done to reduce the energy consumption. So we can gain energy from the biogas, just like Mr. Murrell had in his presentation before me with biogas production. Then we can use sludge into fertilizers, and we can reuse water by cleaning it. Not necessarily by drinking it, but we can use it for irrigation. Globally, 70% of the clean water is used for irrigation and agriculture. So there's a big need for water in the agricultural sector. Then what we have is modular off-grid water solutions. In the picture here, you can see a desalination plant built in a container with solar power. So we can have this kind of modular solutions for rural area or for hotels and holiday resorts if they are far from the cities. So we can have clean water from the boreholes or from the sea, but also we have modular solutions to treat the wastewater. It is important to clean the wastewater because if we don't clean the wastewater, we will soon run out of clean water. Then education and capacity building is seen very important. If we have new modern solutions for water treatment, digital solutions or circular solutions, then it's very good that the operators and the engineers are well trained and educated. And this is an area where Finland can help if you have interest to work together with us. We can also offer education. Then environmental monitoring is important topic that we can follow the water quality in the lakes and rivers. We have in Finland we are following all the main rivers and lakes, the water quality, and we can see what is the water quality. And it's important to know what the situation is that to make improvements. Another area is smart water management and solutions to reduce water losses in potable irrigation and wastewater networks. The best way and most sustainable way to produce water is to avoid leakages in the system. In wastewater network, the leakages are usually 30 to 40%. So there's a lot to do. In potable water network, it's less, but there are also cases where the leakages are over 20%, maybe 30% also into potable water. So there's a lot we can do with digital solutions. And that they were the topics where we have technologies in Finland, and we are willing to work together with South Africans to find solutions here. And if you are interested to hear more about us and our solutions, you can visit our webpage, and there you have our contact information, and we can be in contact with you, and we can also try to find the right partners from Finland who have the know-how and interest to help you in the projects you would like to work with us. This was in short what we are doing. Thank you for your time.
Topi, thank you so much. I think that's a really great presentation, and I'm sure some people ask if you can share it, but I know on your website there's also more than enough information. There are so many areas, as you showed in, I think, your slide number 2, in which water and water solutions are relevant, and I think you picked 3 very relevant areas for our country. For South Africa, the wastewater management, the modular solutions, and capacity and skills development. I think there are some Finnish companies that have been actively scoping these markets. You know, Topi, that we've also been involved with a big request from Mauritius to clean up wastewater from the sugarcane industry. We have a big sugarcane industry in South Africa as well, so we might bring those. What I'm trying to say is that there are some initial touch points for Finnish water solutions in South Africa, but I'm looking forward to a huge growth of that in the coming years. As Craig showed, there is a real huge need for water in South Africa, and as you just showed, there is just very broad expertise and excellence for such solutions in Finland. So let's hope that the need and the offering can meet each other, and Finland can help South Africa become more sustainable with its water and less water scarce. So thank you for that, Topi. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to continue working together, and I'm sure that there'll be some questions that we can forward to you after the event if people get in touch. Then for the next part of the event, we've got an international rock star, Chris Ndhlovu, the CEO in Zambia for a Finnish company called BioRaiser. I think his experience is very, very interesting for 2 reasons. First of all, because he's presenting a Finnish solution, which in itself is quite amazing. They managed to create a fertilizer that you can use in very water scarce environments to grow various crops. And at the same time, Chris has the experience of bringing that solution to an African country as he runs the Zambian operations for BioRaiser. They've launched last year. They've created a factory or production plant in Zambia. So yeah, I think Chris's experience is very, very valuable. So we're very, very happy to have him and for him to have made time in very busy schedule. So yeah, Chris, are you there? And please show yourself and make yourself heard.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the warm welcome. International Rockstar, I like it. Unfortunately, my internet connection is a bit poor this morning, so I'll try to share my my presentation. Can you hear me, Camilo?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let's try and share this. Just a minute. Yeah, internet is quite slow, so just be patient with me. There we go.
Fantastic, Chris. We can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so just to talk a little bit about BioRaiser. BioRaiser is a Finnish company, Finnish innovation. We are part of Biosorbio OY Limited. Biosorbio is a collection of 3 main products. So one of them is BioRaiser, which is a climate smart fertilizer. The other one is oil sorbio, which is an oil absorbing product, particularly for oil spills at sea and for cleaning the environment. And the third product is the algae collector. The algae collector is meant for removing algae from the water and preventing those problems that the algae actually presents when in an explosion in water. So, for example, we've got a project in Lake Okeechobee in Florida. For those interested, we can talk offline about that, which is working with the U.S. Marine Corps to fix those problems. So that's in a nutshell. We are part of a trio of products and solutions that we offer on our menu. Today I'm talking about BioRaiser.
Chris,
yes?
Sorry, do you mind putting your presentation on presentation mode with so that you so that everybody has a bigger image of what you're doing? Only if it's possible. Thank you.
It's possible. Having some challenges at the moment. Hopefully that should work this time. If not, Camilo, also you have my presentation. You could share it in case we have a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. So, like I said, my internet is wreaking some havoc on the technology today. Let's be hopeful that everything goes smoothly. So as we wait for this, the basic thing that BioRaiser does is, first of all, you mix it with the soil in the target area, about 15 to 20% of it. You mix it with the soil or growing media in case you're using greenhouses, and it's able to withhold nutrients and water. So it avoids leaching of nutrients. Therefore, you use less nutrient, other nutrient like compost, and also you use less water, up to 70% in most cases, less water. So this helps us with water efficiency. It also helps us with efficiency of optimization of the growth of the plant. Now, how did BioRaiser come about? 2 years ago in Zambia, the Embassy of Finland in Zambia hosted Finnish Business Week in April of 2019, and BioRaiser was one of the companies that were participating. After they participated, they had an interest to join the Southern Africa business sector in providing their solutions. And that's how I became involved with them, having had a long history of introducing technologies to Southern Africa, including South Africa. And so we started our long journey of experimenting and exploring whether this technology is actually relevant. A lot of the time you get solutions that may or may not be relevant, and actually we need to put them to the test via pilots. So we did a lot of piloting. We did a lot of testing. Sorry, Camilo, I think this thing is going to work. So let me just try this other way. Or do you have our do you have our presentation handy, perhaps?
I don't, Chris. I didn't receive it. So just go the way you were. I think that's better. Thank you, and sorry for that.
Okay, I think we've got something going. So yes, let me try to go to the next slide. So as I was saying, we did some pilot tests to find out if the solution is relevant and where we can actually apply it. If you have a look at this slide, BioRaiser is a revolutionary non-leaching product. Oh, we're going too fast now. Just a minute. Yes, got control back. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. So, revolutionary non-leaching nutritional seed-based soil amendment product. So, as I mentioned, the first function of it is to hold water and nutrients in the soil. The second part, why we call it a fertilizer, is that it's nitrogen rich. It's got 25% nitrogen, and it slowly releases this nitrogen by biodegrading in the soil. So the whole 25% is not available to the plant at the same time. It's available slowly over time, over a period of 8 months. I'll go that into detail in a short while. So what we did first is, first of all, have research institutes for a period of about 7 years. And then from 2019, start the trials in Zambia and in some neighboring countries, namely Congo, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, and so on. So we also have an innovative approach to setting up factories. The idea is that everything that we do is environmentally friendly. So if you look at our suite of products that I was talking about, if it's oil spills, we've got a product for that. If it's algae collection to help the water systems, we've got a product for that. In the same way, we've got an innovative solution of deployment when it comes to factories. We've got modular containerized small factories that are high tech and high output, and that helps us in reaching the areas where the product is needed. So we don't have to have hundreds of millions of dollars to set up in each country. As long as there's a need for such a product, we can easily, within 6 months, be able to deploy such a product in the country and start manufacturing based on how fast we can get the legislation going. So we did the same in Zambia. We have the first modular unit. And as the business grows within the country, we will be able to have multiple of these containerized units dotted around the country so that we can keep the costs low of our fertilizer, as well as keep our carbon footprint low, because we don't have to use trucks all the time to transport long distances for our product. So the benefits of this approach is that we can take a fairly small amount and import that fairly small amount, and using the containerized factory, we're able to multiply it by about 48 to 50 times in volume. And thus we're able to move onto site, manufacture as much as we want, and move to another site with as little carbon emissions from transportation as possible. So it is a non-toxic fertilizer, which is biodegradable, as I talked about, and its effects of water retention and nutrient, particularly nitrogen fixation in the soil, lasts up to 8 months. What does this mean for the farmer? This means that we can have multiple crop cycles with just one application. Typically for vegetables, for example, it's between 1 and 2 months from the nursery. And so you can have about 4 crop cycles with just one application, making our product even more affordable, even much cheaper, alongside the benefits of nutrient retention in the soil, promotion of microbes in the soil, as well as water efficiency and water retention in areas that are challenged with water accessibility. So it's a new generation of seedbed fertilizer, climate smart fertilizers. As I said, some of the points there: water savings, fertilizer savings, and on that point of fertilizer savings, we are able now to use compost fertilizers alongside our product to help regenerate and build the soil. But at the same time, because our fertilizer retains the nutrients as well as the water, we're able to have those low NPK values that you typically find in compost fertilizers, have them last a lot longer, so that even heavy feeders such as maize and other crops are able to benefit and are able to grow quickly without the use or the need of compound fertilizers. The difference between this and compound fertilizers is that this does not dissolve in water. It actually biodegrades. So we are not dissolving in large concentrations in water when we mix it with the soil. We are placing it there sort of like a net underneath the root, in the root zone, and it traps everything from above. But it's also able to support the microorganisms that are needed, that are the real game changer. So as part of building your soil, you're able to add carbon-rich compost, use them to their maximum, but also encourage the growth of microorganisms, and thus rebuilding the soil. The soil and the microorganisms are the real game changer, and unfortunately, use of a lot of chemicals in terms of compound fertilizers kills these off, and you find that that is dying off. And as the previous speaker was talking about, the reason organic fertilizers are on the increase is to encourage these microorganisms to live. So I think you'll be able to share that. The other things of note in that slide is that obviously we've talked about holding water, so acts as a water bank, much like your power bank for your phone. So whatever little water is available, for example, if there's erratic rainfall in the region, the BioRaiser grow is able to prolong the effects of the moisture and allow the plants to keep growing and not suffer drought shocks or climate shocks. So that's the climate smart part of it. So as I mentioned earlier, it's non-toxic, it's very high performing on any crop, including agroforestry, on trees, tree nurseries, tree transplanting. You notice that those that are in agroforestry, whenever you transplant the tree, there is a high failure rate for the transplants, and BioRaiser mitigates a lot of that transition. So as long as the plant needs, the nutrients are always available in the root zone and always available to the plant whenever the plant needs, and that's where we outperform other conventional fertilizers. So what is contained? As I mentioned, typical is that we have quite a bit of moisture already, some carbon, but the main ingredient is the nitrogen, the slow release of nitrogen, which is always a problem for farmers, why they need to use urea and urea-like products, is that there's a problem of nitrogen fixation. So we've tried and we've aimed and we've solved the problem of water retention, of nutrient retention, which is a very common problem on all farms around the world. But we've also attempted to solve the fixation of nitrogen in the soil, which is obviously a problem. So added to this nitrogen fixing, we are also looking at the use of other friendly fertilizers. So we are also looking at that, and we're looking at blends as well. We can talk a little bit more in the question and answer session about that. So that's the end of the short presentation. I just would like to bring you back to this slide. Yes. So for this slide, you may notice in the top right corner that we're also looking at, as part of our ethos at BioRaiser, we're looking at the SDGs. So particularly the fact that we're able to encourage even smallholder farmers to grow more using less inputs makes it cheaper for them to have multiple crop cycles. So in that regard, more income as well as more food availability. We're working with other organizations as well as ourselves in our ethos. We are looking at gender equality as well, because women and youth provide about up to 80% of the workforce, especially for smallholder farmers. And thus we deliberately are looking into that direction. And the climate action as well as the water as well. So we work with all sorts of organizations, all sorts of communities in areas where they're interested in arresting the soil degradation, in areas where they're already suffering climate shocks due to climate change, but also in areas where the soils are depleted and the farmers just need to rebuild the soil. So that's the link between our product being mixed in an ecological and friendly way to products such as compost fertilizers, for example. So what does this mean for South Africa? South Africa being a vast country, I've actually enjoyed living in South Africa for my early years in my early career. We don't have to have one big major factory.
We're running a bit over time, so
okay.
If you can make these last comments as succinct as possible.
Sure, wrapping up. So I was saying, what does this mean for South Africa? It means that we don't have to have millions of dollars to set up a big factory in Joburg and run a lot of logistics. We can set up in areas such as the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Bloemfontein, Cape Town, wherever there's a challenge of access to water, because of our innovative modular design and modular approach to our actual deployment. So if you have any questions, please feel free. You're welcome to ask any questions at this stage, or maybe we'll wait for the question and answer session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And let's indeed leave the Q&A for later. I think I'm every time I hear you present, it is amazing, and I've seen your presentation a couple of times. The very intelligent way of solving this issue by fixing nitrogen and releasing it slowly. The way in which you improve the water quality. Maybe Chris, if you can mute yourself as well. And then the modular production side. So I look really much forward to seeing several of your container-based production plants in South Africa in the coming years, and very keen to assist you in that process. And to any South African participants in the webinar, don't miss out on the opportunity to becoming the South African Chris Ndhlovu. There are really huge opportunities. Please can I call Aira Harju, the development manager of primary production from HKScan, at least as interesting as any of the other presentations you're going to hear today. They have an amazing ecosystem. I'm not going to spend too much of her time. Please, Aira, can you show all the amazing work you're doing of bringing the production to zero carbon?
Thank you, and hi everyone. I assume that you are seeing and hearing. Yes. Fine, thank you. Okay, I'm Aira Harju and I work as Development Manager for HKScan Corporation. And it's really nice to be here with you today, as said. My topic today is towards zero carbon target. Firstly, I was about to share you some topics about the company I work for. Now it's moving possibly. Yeah. Okay. Firstly, some words about the company I work for. HKScan is a Nordic company with over 100 years of history, and we have 100 employees, and our home market areas are Finland, Sweden, Baltics, and Denmark. We make food from responsibly produced raw materials in the middle of the cleanest nature in the world. Fresh air, abundant water resources, and a high level of expertise available make the Baltic Sea region an excellent place for responsible food production. HKScan is a publicly owned company, publicly listed company, and we have stable and dedicated owners. Main power is on LSO Cooperative, which is farmers' organization. Farming community, where we have 7,500 contract producers, plays a key role when heading towards our carbon neutral food production. Our strategic goal is to grow into a versatile food company. For us, meat and plant-based food have always been in harmony around the same table, and we represent food democracy without confrontation, so to say. Earlier, you probably mentioned that we are in pork business only, but the core of our meat production is not only in pork, but also in beef and broiler meat production. And the core of the thinking is local food and strong brands. And here you can see our brands. As you can see, food company for the future means many things for us. Today, we are mainly concentrating on nature and farming community with you. When I'm talking about towards zero carbon, I basically mean our zero carbon program, which includes HKScan's climate targets as follows, and we are aiming at carbon neutral food chain by the end of 2040, and also carbon neutral own production by the end of 2025. We are also committed to set science-based targets, as stated here. How are we then doing this? We have these 7,500 contract producers, and climate training programs are ongoing with them, and it is done with digitalized tools. Also thinking about the soil management, we optimize the use of nutrients and examine carbon sequestration in the pilot farms, and we also have a program called Agri-Food Ecosystem. Here you can see some picture and the vision of our agri-food ecosystem. When traditionally the taste, quality and price have been the primary selection criteria for food products, we are now producing food that tastes good also in our hearts and minds. What we need is the data. When looking at the spotlight in the picture, we are creating an ecosystem and data platform to collect and manage all the data needed to be able to calculate the product environmental footprint. We have started by calculating the carbon footprint of our pilot farms, and the digital solutions are utilized in building the entity and is used as an enabler for transparency. Today, we are working with data management tools, which means, for instance, automated data collection from the farms and the farm management systems. Animal welfare development and the data related is also part of the ecosystem. When strict laws and regulations guide animal welfare in our countries, thanks to our close cooperation with farmers, we know the meat and the growing conditions of animals. And but back to the picture, the black on the right describes the solution, how we are able to share the collected data for our stakeholders. And we mean consumers, customers, regulators, and investors. The idea of agri-food ecosystem model is basically built to promote the responsibility of primary production. And when I mentioned the pilot farm, the development work is basically done with pilot farms, which are our specially selected farms and kind of forerunners. The future farming methods are developed together with these farms, and they have an essential role in prototyping, defining, and implementing these new farming methods. After piloting, the best practices are then chosen, and they are ready for scaling up to the larger farming community. And in the end, the value add of the whole system is to commercialize sustainability actions and enable better profitability on farms. And when thinking about the data, if you can measure, you can manage. I think Jenny Kilholm already mentioned this statement, but the reality is there and the truth is there. Here you can see some pictures and examples of the actions on the farms. What we are doing is testing cover crops on the fields. There are self-acting carbon flux analyzers and sensors are used, and also vegetation index. We can calculate the carbon balance and how it affects to the emissions. And when looking at the logos we have here, when we are talking about ecosystem, we need to have partners. We have carefully chosen valuable partners who we are working with. Here you can see one interesting finding, which is related to our carbon flux measurement and soil management. The finding here is that maximum NDVI was found in spouting phase, just to show a detail of the development work. What else we are doing is the animal welfare, which Jenny also mentioned in the beginning. When we have the camera surveillance and artificial intelligent analytics tool on our broiler pilot farm. When you find it interesting, please visit our website hkscan.com to see more information about this. This is now my last slide today, and let's not go into the details, but I'm just sharing the idea of next evolution of our contract farming. We see that the data on consumer and customer insight is to be utilized in producers' development work. Finally, I would like to highlight that what we are doing at HKScan suits at our company, and the strategy and target setting is in the core when choosing the right actions. And finally, I would like to share our CEO's thoughts when he has once stated as follows. So how to do this? First, we have to set the ambitious targets. Then we have to do this together with our contract farmers and other partners. And then we move towards our targets humbly and determinedly. And it's important that we work long term and create permanent, more climate friendly operating models. And at the same time, we understand that we are only at the beginning of our journey. Thank you for listening today.
Aira, thank you for an amazing presentation and for an amazing job, for incredible work. Maybe if you don't mind muting yourself so that there's no echo. I would like to. I think it's incredible to see how HKScan or HKScan has managed to see itself as an ecosystem, and how you approach the entire chain from the growing of the food that the animals eat. And please accept my apologies for calling you a pork production company. It is because that is one of the export lines you are promoting here in South Africa, and the way we have been relating. But obviously your company is much bigger than only that. I have a question for you, Aira, and I see there's also a question for Chris from BioRaiser, and once again, apology for being over time. But Aira, so for example, when you export, you've got this whole ecosystem, and then out of it comes a product, and that you sell. But are you also able to maybe export or somehow engage with local partners on those production philosophies? Because there is a big transition. For example, Woolworths, one of the biggest food retailers in the country, is investing some 80 million euros in the next coming years to make their supply chain more sustainable. And they really also envisage that whole ecosystem, and maybe even more because they include the retail part of it. Would you be able to, would you be keen to also engage in that kind of relations, of exporting your know-how and your expertise in that green transition and in that carbon neutral way of producing?
Well, yes, maybe I'm not the right person to answer that question, since that may be a bit bigger question, but why not, I would say. I assume that we are open to all ideas, and of course when we find this useful and profitable way to continue, then of course it's an option to go.
Thank you, Aira. At least see it as an invitation. Thank you again. Thank you so much for your presentation. Chris, we have one, and please again, if you can mute yourself, Aira. Then Chris, we've got one question for you. I think it's literally the $1 million question. Your product is amazing, but how does it compare monetary to chemical fertilizers? Is it or am I still cheaper if I just continue doing what I'm already doing? Are you there, Chris? And do you want to answer that?
I am. It's $1 million question indeed. I believe that if you all things considered, first of all, pound for pound, it is cheaper than compound fertilizers. But it becomes even more cheaper because we're saving you in terms of water. We're also saving you in terms of other nutrient application because we make them last longer. We're saving you per crop cycle. It becomes cheaper because in comparison, other fertilizers you have to keep applying per crop cycle, whereas with our fertilizer, you've got 8 months and multiple crop cycles with it. So it's cheaper to begin with, then it also becomes cheaper as you plant more things, and it's cheaper with your other inputs, as I've mentioned. Does that help?
Thank you very much for that. That is those are really good comments. I think I hope John, if you are there, if you can hear this, we will gladly put you in touch with Chris. So just please reach out to me if you wish. So thank you, everyone. We are way over time. Our commitment to stick more to the time schedule.
Camilo, sorry, just a comment before you close. If HKScan could please contact me, I've got some business for them based on their last presentation. Thank you.
I'll facilitate that contact. I saw your comment, Chris. I'll facilitate that contact. So there we are. We're taking a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 12 o'clock South African time and 1 o'clock Finnish time for our last session on technology, equipment, and precision farming, where again we have a star-studded lineup, and where we will present you some really interesting companies, some of which are already active in the region. Yeah, enjoy the break and looking forward to seeing everybody in the next 12 minutes. Thank you.